great value home insurance. Go to the aa.ie.
Rain will arrive from the west early tonight, minimum temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
The Wexford hurling captain, Mattew O'Hanlon, is in studio. How are you?
Not too bad, Nathan.
You're here because the GPA and the RSA have joined forces to promote road safety and highlight the dangers of phone use in the car. They're asking people to remember to switch off before you drive off, put the phone on silent on airplane mode, or simply put it out of reach in the boot of the car. For more information, log on to rsa.ie. It seems like a pretty obvious partnership, the GPA and the RSA, considering young men are most definitely their target audience when they're launching campaigns like this?
Definitely. I think it's a natural link. I suppose if you think of the GA and GA clubs and anyone involved in GA, they know the experience of driving to and from games and in those long journeys and how tiring that can be. And then when you add the phone into the equation, it can be very distracting. And it's one of the biggest things that are, I suppose, causing road accidents in Ireland specifically. So I'm delighted to be involved in the campaign and to hopefully impact the behaviour in some way.
Yeah. And particularly with social media now as well, that it's no longer the phone call, it's sitting there on Snapchat or WhatsApping or slyly WhatsApping with the phone down by your side, all of which is just as bad. Yeah,
like in general, it's very difficult to plug out of everything. And I think young people, especially nowadays, are so connected to everything that they do in their lives that going into a car and the extension to their mobile is often, they often don't see the difference and they carry on as normal, and it's so dangerous. Even yesterday they did a virtual reality test in the RSA centre where they put the goggles on you and mimicked what it's like to read a text message. And I think that if you glance and read a text message, your car, if you're driving a motorway, will travel 3 times the length of a GA pitch. So if you put that into context,
right,
while you glance down and look back up, you've travelled that distance. That's how dangerous it could be, and it's just brought everything to home for me that it's so dangerous.
I asked how you were. You say you're fine. It's obviously been a difficult couple of weeks, and physically been a difficult couple of weeks. You got a massive knee brace.
Yeah, I've got
an injury.
I'm looking like RoboCop going around here with this knee brace. Unfortunately, I've torn my lateral collateral ligament on the outside of my left knee, so grade 3, which is as bad as it gets pretty much. But I was blessed, I suppose, I didn't do any other ligament damage, so I'm probably looking at 2 to 3 months out, which is it's a kick in the teeth now for my club to not be able to get involved with them. But who knows? Maybe if they get towards the latter end of the championship, I might be able to get back.
A lot of people, I'm sure, probably remember when you picked up the injury. You were just showing us the video of it slowed right down as to how your knee sort of collapses. This was very early in the semi-final against Tipperary. What's your memories of it actually happening?
It's kind of strange. Myself and Jason Ford were running for a ball and we were both going to catch it, but it went behind the two of us. And I remember looking back and planting my left leg, not knowing where I was putting it, to be honest. And it's kind of as if your upper body your lower body gets stuck and your upper body goes too far, and then it kind of it's like when you're testing the spring in a hurl. Imagine that was my leg. That was kind of like what it was like. But when I hit the ground, I was like, you've seen it happen to so many players before, and it's like, this is my turn now, I'm gone. But thankfully the physio and the doctor came on and checked me, and they're like, stood up, and I was like, okay, my knee didn't feel too bad. I was like, okay, All-Ireland semi-final, I didn't want to go off unless I really needed to, so I was like, give me a few minutes here to see how I am and see if we can run it off. And look, I managed to get through the game. I don't think
were you at 100% for the rest of the game?
I believe so. Like I don't think my movement was impacted too much. When I look back on it now, I don't think there was anything that I did in the game that was a direct cause of trouble in my knee. But maybe, in hindsight, maybe I should have been taken off. But hindsight is always 20/20, isn't
it? You mentioned it's a high grade 2 moving on to a grade 3, so it's going to be 2-3 months out. If you'd gone off, do you think it would have been a lesser time frame?
I doubt it. I think the damage was done in that moment. I haven't asked that consultant that, but the damage was done in that 10 minute, like in the incident happened in 10 minutes in. So I don't think I did any significant damage thereafter. It didn't feel any different after the game as opposed to when it happened. So
I'd imagine as well, like most young inter-county players, if it's a choice between missing 2 or 3 months or playing the rest of an All-Ireland semi-final,
Yeah,
even with hindsight, there was only ever going to be one winner.
Yeah, true. Like the biggest thing would be that, I would hate to make a mistake as a result of an injury, and thankfully I didn't do that. But look, it's disappointing in one sense to not get over the line and be looking forward to an All-Ireland final, but then, if you were there, I wouldn't be able to play, so that's the other side of it.
Careful now what you're saying. How difficult then were the days after? Like, there's losing an All-Ireland semi-final, which is the worst possible stage to lose, but also having been 5 points up against the team down to 14 men, you can almost touch it.
Yeah, look, it's been hugely disappointing for the group, and I suppose in the aftermath, the dust has settled now, and you can look back on it with a bit clearer vision. But yeah, you would assume, when Tip went down to 14 men and we were 5 points up, that it was prime for us to kick on and see the game out. But
why didn't you kick on?
It's difficult to pinpoint one thing particularly. Often you'll see in games when the team goes down to 14 men, they're galvanised. They realise that, because they've got one man extra, that every possession counts so much more for them. Every opportunity to score counts so much more for them. And I think you'll see in the last 10 minutes that Tip used the ball an awful lot better than we did, took their chances an awful lot better than we did. And then on top of that, I think if you see the way the game was set up, you had Paddy Marr sitting as a spare defender for Tipperary, we had Kevin Foley back. And then when John McGrath got sent off, that meant that we had another spare defender. So we decided to push up to make sure that there's no spare players in Tipperary half. But then the knock-on effect of that is there were so many bodies in the Tipperary half that the space that we had exploited in the first half wasn't there for us. And then we had to take shots from further out the pitch or at different angles, and they were poor shots. And then on the other side of it, Tip had so much more space to attack us. And look, I can say that now, having looked back on it, going, it's completely obvious, but when you're in the middle of a game and there's 60, 70,000 people there, your tongues are hanging out in the last 10 minutes, it's very difficult to stop and game manage within the game. And that's an experience we'll definitely take away and bring with us for next season, to be able to, analyse that in the moment and make changes there.
Did any part of you in the moment stop and think, we're 5 points up against 14 men, we're on the verge of an All-Ireland final? Did nerves kick in at all?
I don't think nerves played a part, because I think over the course of this season, I think in the last 10 minutes of nearly every game, we had outscored our opposition if you looked at the 10 minutes in isolation. So we knew that we were strong finishers. I don't think we ever thought any further than the game. It was all about putting on a performance and trying to get a result. But I think, like for me, I was just solely focused on marking Jason Ford and limiting his impact. And I think everyone was so focused on their individual role, it didn't allow us to, I suppose, take a step back and go, okay, we're almost there,
What happens after a defeat like that in terms of analysing the game? So you're talking there about moving an extra defender out so that side of the pitch has ended up crowded. I'm sure Davy Fitzgerald has identified that as maybe something he could have done differently. Do you have that conversation as a group? I presume you don't watch the game back because the season's ended, but at the same time you would feel it's a game you should watch back.
Yeah, I suppose everyone has their individual processes on how they analyse games. I know a lot of my teammates would have watched it back. Knowing Davy has watched it back probably 25 times at this stage.
And has he spoken to you about it?
At different spells, yeah, on the phone, we've spoken. We haven't had a post-season review or anything like that.
Does that generally happen?
It has happened the last couple of years where we've reviewed the season and put plans in place for the following season, but it generally doesn't happen till a month or two down the line after the championship. But when we look back at it, I suppose everyone analyses in their own way. It's quite obvious to us, but there were changes that we tried to make in the last 10 minutes. But for example, going shorter with the puck outs and working the ball through the lines, which we were doing very well in the first half. But as I said, when your tongue is hanging out and to get into a starting position for your short puck out and then to want the ball and then to run it 30 yards, 40 yards to get it to the next line is very difficult at that spell in time. And then unless you've got all 6 defenders in their starting position, it's very difficult for Mark, our goalkeeper, to pick them out with confidence,
What is that like then in those final, say, 5-6 minutes as it is slipping away, and having 20 minutes earlier, it felt like being very close to the All-Ireland final and you're desperately just trying to get back level again. As a player in your head, is it just pure desperation? Can you think clearly?
Yeah, it is desperation. You're doing everything you can, but there's always a belief there, definitely a belief amongst us that we were going to get a chance. We were going to get a chance to get it back. And there's little things I think Conor McDonald, directly after he got his goal, he caught the next ball and hit it off his left shoulder, and then when you look at the video, there's 3 Wexford players running off his shoulder straight in on goal, and there's a few times in that and then you can point to different moments throughout the game that we could have taken chances. But in the last 6 minutes in particular, yeah, you're trying everything, but like Tipperary, everything the shot went over. Like Jake Morris's point at the end was absolutely ridiculous, the angle that he was able to get it. And then, you know, it's very difficult when everything they're shooting is going over and you're trying everything and nothing's going right for you. That's difficult.
What was the dressing room like afterwards?
It was savagely disappointing. Like, so you can imagine, very quiet.
Do people speak in a situation like that?
Yeah.
Is there a rabble-rousing, we'll be back next year, we'll go one, 2 steps further? At the time of the place? It's
difficult directly after the game. There's a spell of maybe 10, 15 minutes where not a word is spoken. Everyone's just, you know, disappointed and down. And then, yeah, like a couple of people spoke. The county board chairman came in and just thanked us for a season. Davy spoke briefly, just thanked us, but it was very emotional too. And then I spoke on behalf of the players just to thank the management team. And like the way I look at the season now with the dust settled, it's hugely positive for Wexford. You know, we won our first Leinster title in 15 years. It's something we've been striving for as a group for a long time, and that's not to be sniffed at all. I think in terms of the confidence and belief that's given us as a group, it's absolutely massive. I don't think we're going to lose too many players to retirement. We've got a good age profile. I think the only way is up, because we've played so many big games this season and we've been right thereabouts in nearly all of them. I think we're looking forward to next season with a lot of confidence, knowing that we can compete at the top level, and we want to prove to everyone that we can, you know, that's where we belong.
I'm sure a lot of people were watching the documentary with Michael O'Brien, who Davy first met on the Late Late Show, and the build-up to him giving the pre-match speech for the league game against Tipperary that ended perfectly from a television point of view, where you have this miraculous comeback to beat Tip right at the depth, and his speech was built around changing your story. Mm-hmm. And it was perfect, actually, for the way the season went, because what you're talking about there, getting to another level, you get the Leinster title, you have that Leinster medal for this group, but also sort of change the story of Wexford are no longer on any sort of a second tier. Like going and beating Kilkenny, pushing Tipperary right there, drawing with Galway during the championship. You can now look into next year with a different plan, with a different story, that ye are among the genuine All-Ireland contenders.
Yeah, I believe so. But like every team is trying to improve. You know, if I'm Galway or Dublin or Clare or one of the teams that were knocked out early in the championship, I'm doing everything I can to put myself back up there. And it's a great time to be playing hurling, because the gap is so small between all of the teams, and you see that throughout the Munster and Leinster championships, and that gives every team belief that they can go on and win something big. But the fact that we've won it this year, I think, was definitely a shot in the arm confidence-wise, because especially after 2017, getting to a Leinster final and not performing, to be able to get over the line this year, and then in 2018 to be exit the championship, you know, not putting on a performance. I suppose there's solace to be found in the fact that we lost an All-Ireland semi-final, but we did play particularly well, and we were very, very close, and that gives us, I suppose, the motivation to go back winter training to fuel the fire for us next season. But yeah,
is that a different mindset to 4 or 5 years ago? I know you're saying now those 8 or 9 counties competing at the very top level all feel that there's not a huge amount between them, and a good run of form at the right time can bring you a long way.
Yeah.
When you think back to 4 or 5 years ago where you were with Wexford, did you go into seasons thinking you could contend? Did you always think you could contend for an All-Ireland?
You only know what you know at the time. So I always say that during that time, you do believe that you can beat any of the big teams. But it's only when you look back now, you realise that we weren't where we needed to be in order to win the big games, in terms of our strength and conditioning, our fitness-wise, our skill-wise. At all levels, we needed to raise our standards. And I think we did progressively under Liam Dunn to a certain level. And Davy brought us to the level now where we are, where we're, you know, able to compete at the highest level. But that's a process that takes time, and it takes change. It takes players changing their mindset in terms of, you know, every one of them wanting to improve and become the best player that they can. I think we've got that in the group that we've got together now. But that process, you know, you can be lucky. I always compare to when I was 18 or 19 coming out of minors, I went into a setup where we were Division 1B. Wexford football was on a high. All the best dual players were picking football. my league debut was a 23-point defeat to Galway in Salt Hill on TG Carr as an 18-year-old, and then I was thinking, is this the level that we are at? And then you compare that to Noel McGrath, who went into an All-Ireland winning Tipperary team, and that's the standards he set himself for the entirety of his career. So it happens at different times for different teams. So I'm delighted that I could still be around when it happens for us. I'm looking forward to seeing how we can improve and how we can challenge again next year.
A key part of that, you would have to assume, is Davy Fitzgerald and whether or not he stays on. And it's always peculiar when you look at how Davy is perceived from the outside. On the one hand, you have this unbelievable roll of honour as a manager where he's won everything at counties that weren't winning things previously. On the other hand, a lot of people feel he has a certain shelf life, that his style of management and the intensity of it can only last so long, and players can only listen to it for so long before they're just worn out by it almost. It doesn't seem, from listening to any of the Wexford players, that you're anywhere close to being worn out by the Davy Fitzgerald message. And even going back a year ago, where a group of players go up to Davy Fitzgerald and beg is probably a bit too strong, but ask him to ensure that he stays on. Do you feel you're going to need to make that sort of trip again?
I think firstly, I suppose the bond that we have with Davy is something special that I haven't had with a manager before. To see what he puts into us makes us want to give everything to him. In terms of the level of professionalism that he brings to the setup, his preparation in terms of every training session and every opposition that we're playing is second to none. And he's backed that up with getting us to the level that we're at. So we firmly believe in him and we want him back, and everyone to a man within our panel feels that way, and the county board do as well, and the Wexford public do as well. But look, Davy's his own man. It's well documented. The trip from Clare isn't easy, and the commute takes its toll, and he's got other business interests as well that I'm sure he wants to focus his time on. But we've spoken at different times. I haven't mentioned it because I want him to make his decision for the right reasons. Last year we went down, and the conversation was all about areas we could improve. How could we get the next 5 to 10%?
How did that conversation come about a year ago? Who instigated that?
It was, I suppose, we had heard several rumours. We weren't sure what was going on, and then as a group of players, I suppose more senior players started speaking to each other, and we were like, we don't want to sit back on our heels here and not to be seen to be doing anything. We want to be proactive. This is the man we want. We want to make sure that he knows how much we respect him and how much he's valued within our setup. And that was kind of how it came about, and we just gathered as many troops as we could, went down there, and we just had an honest conversation and laid it all out there in terms of what we were disappointed with in our season 2018, areas we could improve, and if he came back, what would be different, and how could we get that extra 5 to 10%. So in one way, it's nice to look back in the 2019 season to know that we made some of those changes and made some of those improvements and ended with silverware. But I still think there's room for us to improve again, and I think that's the questions that Davy will be asking himself at the moment. There hasn't been any talk about a trip down or anything. I suppose I think he's away on holidays at the moment, or going away shortly, so I don't think any decisions will be made until after that. So we'll make sure that our opinion and he knows exactly how we feel about him before that, though.
There was no hints in his short post-match speech as to whether this was the end or there was more to come?
No, he blatantly said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. He didn't commit, nor didn't say that he was going away, and that's the way he did it the year before as well. So, look, as I said, we're hopeful. We'd love to see him back. We want him back big time. And I think that when he looks at it, he knows he's got a group here that'll back him to the hilt. So, we'll hopefully, in a few weeks or whenever the decision is made, it'll be the right one for us.
That bond, was that an instant bond that was there between the group of players and Davy Fitzgerald? Because you talk about the professionalism side of it, which is one thing which I'm sure every elite inter-county player loves, that actually you're not looking around at other counties thinking they've got something better than us. He's been there, he's seen it all, he knows what the best of everything is, and he brings that into your setup. And obviously there's a group there then that can respond to that and appreciate that and make the most of that. But the emotional sort of bond, which I think with Davy always feels important, like you constantly see him. I'm not sure if he still does the pre-match speeches massively, but just walking around pre-match, those individual conversations where you always get the sense he's saying the right thing at the right time. Like, what is it that bond is, and where is it sort of forged?
It's definitely a progression. It doesn't happen instantly, but I suppose Davy lives and breathes every match and every training session. He's there in the trenches with you when you're doing all of the hard graft. He's right beside you doing it. And when you do all of that work alongside your manager, and he sees the effort that you're putting in, then there's a mutual respect for each other. And then I suppose one of Davy's biggest traits is his ability to manage, to know the right thing to say to the right players. Like, there's some players that, need the kick in the hole approach. There's other players that need the arm around the shoulder approach. But Davy seems to know what way players respond to each style, and that's something.
What do you like?
I suppose I need to be challenged. I need to be given I suppose the way I kind of motivate myself is like people thinking I can't do such and such a thing and proving people wrong. But I suppose maybe that's Davy in general. Maybe we'll all say that, But
so was before the Leinster final. Everyone's saying you can't mark TJ Reid. TJ Reid's the best. TJ Reid's the best hurler in the country. He's probably going to score 12 points in you at the weekend. I
won't confirm nor deny that, but
That's what he said. That's what he said.
Similar. We'll say that, something like that.
Is he putting up some of the analysis beforehand in the dressing room for you, or is it
individually? We deal with everything, like in our preparation for games. We deal with everything as a team. So we'll have video clips of all the teams and their key players and what they tend to do and stuff. And then you'll be called out of whoever's role is marking X player, and then you'll be like, look, everyone's relying on you to do it. So it's very much we're all in it together. It's not like overbearing pressure on one person.
Is there any doubt in your mind, say, when you're having that TJ Reid conversation before the Leinster final, of actually TJ Reid is the best hurler in the country right now, that it could all come down to me? I have to perform on him, because if you don't stop TJ Reid, you don't stop Kilkenny. We're all hurlers, right? So we can appreciate talented hurlers, and there's no denying he's one of the best hurlers out there at the moment. And I think as an inter-county player, you can appreciate the skill and level of other players, and while they might admit it all the time, it's true. But for me, I suppose to have a role within a team where I can have such a big impact on the influence on the result of a game is something I thrive on. And I know if I can break even or even get slightly the better of my man, that'll go a long way towards us winning a game. And that's a role that I relish and I take on with both hands. But you must feel pretty alive after those games.
Yeah. But at the same time, you're marking top quality forwards that you cannot let. If they get the ball in their hand, they've got a high chance of scoring. So there's going to be stages in a game where a ball breaks them, then there's nothing you can do about it. He's going to get a goal, he's going to get a point. And for me, my focus over the last few years is how I react from that. Some days everything goes well for you, you hold your man scoreless, and everyone's giving you plaudits. Other days they get 3 or 4 points and things don't go your way, but you maybe curb them a little bit. And I suppose it's trying to improve every time and trying to limit the amount of chances you give them, because the more chances they give them, the more they're going to score. So that's the way I kind of approach it. And I think over the last few years I've worked better at responding to setbacks in terms of if they get a goal, making sure I keep my head and focus on the next game or the next ball.
So you're probably better placed than the vast majority of the population to analyse what may happen in the All-Ireland final, having played against both Kilkenny and Tipperary in the latter stages of the championship. A feeling that what Tipperary showed in the last 20 minutes of the semi-final sort of answered a huge amount of the critics, the resilience that was there, the sheer ability to put their heads down and grind out a victory like that, whereas Kilkenny just won't go away. Even with the setbacks they've had this season, and nobody really expecting them to get to an All-Ireland final. Would you have Tip as favourites?
On paper, I probably have Tipperary as slight favourites, but games between Tipperary and Kilkenny take on a life of their own. There's going to be very little between it. There's only going to be a puck of a ball between them. If you look at the teams on paper, Tip probably have more match winners than Kilkenny. Shane McCallan is banging in goals left, right and centre. Noel McGrath's having one of the years of his career. And then you've got the likes of Bubbles Dwyer, who's a potential match winner. John McGrath, after the semi-final, want to prove a point as well. And then Jason Ford, if the forwarded room, can do damage as well. And then Pádraig Maher and Brendan Maher at the back, and Ronan Maher are playing particularly well. So they're solid throughout. And they'll take an awful lot of belief from the semi-final. They did take a setback in the Munster final in the way that they lost to Limerick, but they've improved since then. And I think the last 20 minutes against us would give them an awful lot of belief, I think, going into a final. Kilkenny, on the other hand, I think they've improved massively since we played them in the Leinster final. Brian Cody has changed up things a bit. What
was the big change that you saw between Leinster final and All-Ireland semi-final?
Well, personnel in some ways. They brought Conor Brown into midfield there and John Donnelly a wing forward, and they've made an impact in terms of the work and intensity that they bring to it. You can see that John Donnelly were probably predominantly known as a scoring forward, but if you saw him in the Limerick semi-final, I think in the first 20 minutes he was put in savage amounts of tackles, and then you see Conor Brown popping up around the place, and he's a bit of an athlete, and he's got a serious engine, and he's able to match it with the best of midfielders. Yeah. So I'd expect him to pick up someone like Michael Breen, but also Richie Hogan coming into it. I'm not sure in terms of how long he can last, but he's however many minutes he's on the pitch, he seems to make a big impact. He scored, I think, 3 or 4 points or something in the semi-final, and same in the quarter. So he's a potential match winner for them as well. Then Colin Fennelly, any ball he gets, he seems to do something, either win a free or get a goal or get a score. He's very dangerous inside. And Tipperary, it'd be interesting to see who they put on him. James Barry didn't play against us. Barry Heffernan, Mark Lee Chin. Is it Barry Heffernan going to stay in, and Mark Colin Fennelly? That'd be interesting to see what happens there. And then
has Barry Heffernan the physicality to mark?
I mean, there's not many players out there that probably do have the physicality to match him. So you're trying to put your best suited back to him. Barry Heffernan is a big, strong fella, and he's quick too, and he's good on the ball. So I think he could match him, but I don't know if he's more comfortable out on the wing as he would be on the square. James Barry would have marked Colin Fennelly before, so he'll be looking to prove a point too if he gets the chance. I'm sure he'll be looking to shackle him if he can. I'm not sure who they're going to put on him, but it'd be an interesting one to watch out for. Then Adrian Mullen is the other guy that's really stepped up to the plate for such a young guy in his first inter-county season to be so mature in his performances, like making the right shot selections, and he doesn't miss too much as well. He's having a great year. And then like TJ is TJ. He's been so consistent throughout the whole year. And there's going to be opportunities in the game that he's going to have to shine. And I'd be interested. Probably put Brendan Maher on him, I would say. But it'd be interesting if they do a man-marking job on him, and who they're going to target on Adrian Mullen as well.
Without revealing the secrets, because I'm sure you're going to be having more battles with TJ Reid. What are the key things as a man marker on TJ Reid that kind of rattle him?
It's hard to know, really. Like, the way I approach it is that if they don't have the ball in their hand, they can't do any damage. So the first thing is to try to stop him winning primary possession. But he's one of the best guys in terms of catching a high ball, and you'll see him, he fakes in front and then comes around to the back and tries attack from behind. And then when you're a back and you don't know where the forward is behind you, that's really hard to, because if you go up here, he can come in on top of you and try.
So how do you counter that?
You try, don't let him get behind you. You start further back, and then make sure the ball and your ball and the man is in front of you, so you can see everything when you're attacking it. That's the way I approached it. But then he's very smart in his movement, and he moves at the right time. You'll see him make sprinting runs off the shoulder and getting the ball off the shoulder, and sometimes you just can't do anything about those. There's so many bodies in the way that his angle of running is designed to get directly in on goal and then block your run. You'll see it. That's how he often gets a lot of his goals, just by following in on a break, making a smart run, and then you're caught behind the bodies where the ball is broken from. So it's not easy to mark him. And
so there's many different ways there that essentially mean whoever's marking him cannot switch off for a split second.
If you're marking him, that's your sole role, that's your sole focus. You can't worry about the ball and you scoring points or anything like that.
And does he take a break at any stage? Like, do you see moments where actually he needs to regain his composure, he just switches off for a couple of minutes and revs himself up?
I suppose I think there's periods in a game where players do that, depending on what's happened to play before. Like if you made a 40, 50 yard sprint or whatever, you're out of breath, you're going to be out of the game for a couple of minutes before you've got the energy back to do that. So there will be those spells, but I suppose as a forward, and him in particular, if I was him, I'd be wanting to get on the ball as much as possible, because forwards tend to, the more they get on the ball, the more comfortable they get, the more loose they get, and things just flow for them then. So that's probably the way he'd be approaching it, I'd say.
Will you go to the game? Will you force yourself to watch it?
I'm in two minds, to be honest. Look, I would like to go just to see the spectacle, and then to see what way the teams match up. But then there's also the back of your head going, that could be us out there, and that would be tough. So I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I'll definitely be linked into it in some way anyway. Yeah, and obviously you're going to be sidelined for a few months, so you're going to miss club championship. Any plans for the next little while? Mentally, do you just like to zone out for a while? Lie on the beach? I'm not too sure. So the first protocol is I'm back with a specialist in Santry next week, so I want to find out what my plan is rehab wise, and if I need to get operation or not. I don't think I need to, thankfully, but fingers crossed that stays that way. Then once I know that, I'll make a bit of a plan for the next few months. I suppose I haven't had this period of time where, from now until mid-October, I'm usually with my club, so it's nice to have the weekends free for a change, so I'll hopefully get away.
In a weird way, it comes at a good time in your career as well, that actually, if you have no hurling, say, from now till January and you're back in with the county, maybe it's a good time to rest the rest of your body.
Yeah, exactly that. The way I'm focusing on is I want to take the time to try come back as a better athlete, make sure my knee is back fully right, and then try rehab little niggles that I would have had throughout the season as well. So it's a nice opportunity to have. Ideally, not the one I want, but I'll try and make the best of a bad situation.
You get a team holiday?
Well, we're going. I think we're talks about it. I'm not sure yet. I've heard rumours.
Negotiations are ongoing.
Yeah, so nothing's been confirmed, but we're hoping we'll get away somewhere.
Does Paul Galvin get the football gig? Maybe you don't get a holiday now.
I'm not sure. We'll see what money is spent there.
All right, Matthew. Very best of luck. Well done on individually a brilliant season, and obviously for Wexford, so many memorable moments as well. You were here because the GPA and the RSA are joining forces to promote road safety and highlight the dangers of phone use in the car. They're asking people to remember to switch off before you drive. Put your phone on silent or on airplane mode, or simply put it out of reach in the boot. For more information, log on to rsa.ie.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Moncrief.
We also played one of the two adverts that have just been banned because of their use of gender stereotypes. And someone says, well, if that's the standard for banning things, can we ban Peppa Pig for its disgusting depiction of men? Well, and that's not an unfair point. Because silly Daddy Pig with his big fat tummy is routinely humiliated and depicted as an idiot. And actually the man is a saint, if you want my honest opinion.
Moncrief.
With the all-new